Who's doing the safety message? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Call the meeting to order. This is the public council meeting for the city of Mount Pearl, October 20th. Welcome, everybody. Two of our colleagues not here. I understand Councillor Tessier is going to be late. Councillor Aker may be a little late as well. But the time has come, and so we will at least begin. The first item on the agenda today would be approval of the agenda itself. Moved by Councillor Stoyle, seconded by Councillor Ledwell, that the agenda as presented be approved. And before I call the question, are there any additions to the agenda that we don't have other than the piece of paper I have in front of me? There's nothing else. We'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried. The first item then would be the public council meeting minutes of October 6th. I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Moved by Deputy Mayor Locke, seconded by Councillor Walsh. Are there any errors or omissions from the council meeting of October 6th? Errors or omissions only? And all remains quiet. We'll call the question. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried. Next item would be business arising then for the minutes of October 6th. As always, the reminder is that you mention the agenda item if there's anything to be brought up. Any agenda items for business arising? Nothing at all. We are going to move back on our agenda, if I can get there. Something just went weird on me. Was it? I wonder what that is. Oh my. Something weird just happened to me, guys. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm back. Okay, before we move on, the first item of new business would be our council reminder safety message. Safety being the number one priority for municipal government these days across Newfoundland and Labrador. We continue to have, by the way, the highest rate of accident and incident involving safety of any industry in the province.
Who's we?
Municipalities. And that's why we do this. So I'm going to call on Councillor Walsh, a safety message for today. Councillor Walsh.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. I'm doing this today because Councillor Stoyles reneged.
Yes, I did.
She did. And I'm totally unprepared for it, but we'll give it a whirl. You know, like usually it works out. It usually works out when you're not prepared. It works out
when you give it a whirl.
Yeah, when you give it a whirl and you're not prepared. Well, obviously next Saturday is Halloween, and so the message would be obviously to parents of the young children, trick-or-treaters who are out there, to wear something bright and to wear some reflective clothing if possible. To all of the pedestrians, of course, who are not trick-or-treating, and particularly to the motor vehicle drivers who are out and about on Halloween. Please be very, very careful and prudent in your driving. Drive very slowly throughout neighborhoods because trick-or-treaters don't pay any attention. And, of course, or I shouldn't say they don't pay any attention. They sometimes don't pay enough attention. Let's put it that way. And also to the trick-or-treaters, if they would also not crisscross the street. Stay on one side of the street collecting their treats rather than crisscross in neighborhoods. And let's make this Halloween a very safe and happy Halloween for everyone. So that's the message for this week, Your Worship.
Thank you, and a good message it is. In fact, it's not just Halloween, Councillor Walsh. The reality of it is Mount Pearl in particular, we are a city of walkers and runners and joggers. And with daylight coming much earlier, people are actually out doing it now at night. And I wonder if they remember that they may be able to see everybody else, but not necessarily everybody else can see them when they're crossing streets, jogging around sidewalks, going crosswalks. All of those things are in trails. So wearing some article of reflective clothing makes eminent good sense all the time, particularly this time of year. Thank you for that. The next item on our agenda is the communications, letters, correspondence. We do have one piece of correspondence to table today, and it is from the Director of Land Management within the Department of Municipal Affairs, and it is in reference to municipal crown land reserves. This is a piece of work, by the way, that was approved and pushed through government as part of the new fiscal framework. And one of the pieces that came from that was an issue around Crown lands. And when the new Crown Lands Act review was underway, we actually made some presentations to that. This issue of Crown land reserves formed part of it. So this new initiative that they're undertaking now, allowing for Crown lands to be reserved inside the boundaries of municipalities for municipal purposes, and allowing that to be done over a period of years, instead of having to buy Crown land outright at market value instantly, is a tremendous move forward for municipalities. Would tell the government of Newfoundland and Labrador and the department that many municipalities, Mount Pearl not one of them really, but many municipalities in the province still feel that Crown land that exists inside their boundaries should actually be municipal land and not Crown land. And that, of course, was the ultimate desire of MNL when they went forward with it. But this is a significant step forward. It'll be interesting to see how it works out. They're doing it as a 5-year test for right now, and I don't know whether there are any Crown land reserves that we would look at. I'm not even sure if we have any Crown land of any particular consequence left in our city. Do we? Yeah, that's Crown land, but that's also already developed, right?
Not all of it.
Not all of it. So we have some that in planning purposes, I suppose we could actually reserve for some initiative if we wanted to do that. Anybody else with a comment on the piece of correspondence we've received from Mr. Moore? If not, we are going to move forward now then to our committees, corporate and community services. Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. We've got a kind of a brief agenda this evening, just 2 very quick items. The first is our invoices for approval. We have 6 items on our list this evening that we're bringing forward for consideration of council. You'll see there the largest invoice for $70,084 is related to our 4th quarter payment for assessment fees to the Municipal Assessment Agency. There are a couple of others there, one for some road work on Farrell Drive and another to do with some work that happened at the Summit Centre recently. There is a total of 6 invoices that we're recommending for approval at a total of $187,735.85, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Question or comment? I'm assuming the removal and rerouting the warranty work, the urban flooring that is invoice number 1. I'm assuming, Councillor Ledwell, that is in reference to the dressing rooms at the Tommy.
That is correct, Your Worship. Yes, that is correct.
Has this solved it?
I'll have to defer to the directors on that. Dr. Collins?
Director Collins.
It seems to have, actually,
Seems to have solved it.
and as well, while they were in there with the change rooms, we actually changed the grout color, which will also help when it comes to perception of people as they walk in. It used to be a white grout, which was very difficult to keep clean. Right, and we sloped the floor while we were there.
Oh, very good. Okay, thank you. Any other question? We'll call it. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
Second item, Your Worship, is related to another great success that we have enjoyed in the city of Mount Pearl. Back on Thanksgiving Monday, the Oktoberfest Craft Fair happened at the Reed Centre, as we're all aware. There were a total of 46 crafters that exhibited their wares at the event, and approximately 1,700 people went through the turnstiles, if you will. That included up over 200 children, so that was great to see a lot of our young people
that's
there.
Good.
Of course, there was a craft room for the kids that they could partake in as mom and dad were shopping, and that was a great success once again this year. So overall, a great event, and we want to put out a huge thank you to all who participated and assisted with the event, especially our staff, certainly, and any and all volunteers that participated. Continues to be a great tradition on Thanksgiving in the city of Mount Pearl.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I unfortunately, I never really got to go there this year, but it's good to see. Are those numbers up? 1,700? Got to be up. Yeah, fabulous. Great.
It's always well attended.
Yeah, we're moving on to infrastructure and public works. Councillor Aker.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I apologize to Council for being late. I thought when I walked in, we were just starting, but I'm glad the meeting was half over, or nearing that. Now, the first item we have coming from Public Works is the related to the new minor baseball field off Munden Drive, and that's the field that's over adjacent to the parking lot at St. Peter's Junior High. We're trying to get a jump on some work we need to get done in the spring of next year. Ideally, we're going to open that field sometime, I would hope, early summer, late spring. This is a consulting piece that needs to be awarded. The amount is $20,042.02 to Progressive Engineering Consulting. We've negotiated this contract with them. What they'll be doing in the next few months is putting together a package for tendering the lighting and related infrastructure for the field, and I so move.
Moved. Is this seconded by Councillor Stoyles? Question or comment? Hearing none. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
Thank you. The next item related to the same field are a couple of change orders, and they're safety and operationally related. It's something we didn't quite see, I guess, when the initial tender was done. We're going to change the height of the fence on the third baseline from 8 to 10 feet. And this will allow us to leave the netting higher. So when the equipment we need to redo, I guess we'll be doing mowing the lawn in the field, when we'll be doing culturing the infield, basically it will be high enough. The gates will open, the equipment can come and go. If we leave it at 8 feet, basically, I think what will happen is that we're always going to have to be moving the net upwards to allow it to get in. So that's for $2,753, and the other one is to extend for safety purposes the backstop, and that'll go across the front of the dugouts, 8 meters each side, and that'll minimize the foul balls that are going, which we expect will be going over the dugouts. So that's a safety concern, and that's for $17,451.72. The total is $20,205.21, and I so move. The next two items relate to the Team Gushue Park facility, and it relates to the parking lot improvements down there. First is we've encountered some unsuitable material, as the engineers like to say, down there by, I believe it's adjacent to Upper Smallwood. We're going to have to remove about much of this material and replace it with 4-inch rock fill, and that basically will shore up the parking lot so that we can ultimately put some pavement on it. The cost of that is $50,307.60. And it was unforeseen. Until you start to dig in the facility, you really don't know what's down below. It will also add 5 days to the contract, but I so move.
It is moved, seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
Next item related to Team Gushue is we awarded the original contract, I believe it's to Weirs, yes, basically for the parking lot improvements. We wanted to get it started earlier in the season so that it's not basically hanging over the winter. So they're making great progress down there. We also, though, want to make sure that we have lot lighting, and within this contract we're proposing a change order, the amount of which was negotiated based on bidding. The amount is $352,791.65, and what it'll do, it'll put the infrastructure in for the parking lot lighting as well as the poles and the lights themselves. So within this contract, the committee is recommending for approval $352,791.65, and I so move.
Moved, seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Question or comment? All those in favor? Contrary-minded, carried.
We have a tender as well for council's consideration. It's street upgrading, Smallwood Drive sidewalks. It's coming from the Building Canada Fund. Project number you can see listed there. Closed on Wednesday, September 30th. The lowest bid, Infinity Construction, in the amount of $485,617.50, HST included, and of course all this money is provided for within an existing allocated budget, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. All those in favor?
I just got a question.
Oh, question.
Yeah.
One time I said question or comment,
Sorry.
or didn't say it.
That's the sidewalks that are currently under construction heading up to what I call the Smallwood Drive extension. I did contact Director Antle on this. A couple of years back, you may remember we discussed this in the chamber about the condition of our sidewalks and the method of construction that we use and the impact it had on people in wheelchairs, and in particular electronic wheelchairs, electronic scooters. Mm-hmm. And you may remember, Your Worship, that one of the residents asked me to come along and go on a ride with them. They provided me an electric scooter, so I spent an hour and a half or 2 hours driving around from this lady's perspective to see what it was like to navigate our sidewalks. And I got to say, it was a real eye-opener because, I mean, I bike ride, I walk the streets, but you have no idea the impact that the sidewalks, the way they're currently constructed, have on people in these scooters. In particular, I found my lower back, in particular, just hitting all the humps and bumps. So I spoke to Director Antle about, could we design these differently? Turns out we can, and some of these trowel grooves or what are little fancy designs that we put in there So I'm delighted to say I did contact Director Antle over the weekend, asked if we were going to be incorporating these new design methods or policies, and the answer to that is yes. So
Good.
we're going to have a set of sidewalks coming up Smallwood Drive, and they will be much more user-friendly to our residents who are in wheelchairs. And when we opted, remember we asked to go wider, and we were going to go color, Councillor Walsh, you may remember, but we opted to stick to the budget and replace what was there. But at least we're going to design them in a much more user-friendly. So I just wanted to bring that forth today, Your Worship, just
Wonderful.
to let the residents know that we are listening, and we are trying to, as we upgrade our infrastructure, we will bring in new design features to make them usable for all residents in Mount Pearl.
Absolutely. Thank you. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried.
Yeah, we must be sure now next spring. The lady lives on Glendale Avenue. We should invite her up for a little scoot up Smallwood Drive.
Test it.
Basically try to reinforce what we're doing.
Right.
Is it meeting the concerns that she mentioned? Right? Yeah. Okay, that's it for the motions as it relates to city business. As you can see there for your information, we also have project updates. The engineering projects are listed there. I'm not going to go into all the detail. They're much the same as they were 2 weeks ago. Most of the work is well over 90% complete. We're in the middle now of wrapping up our construction season. On the public works side, we have updates there on roads, parks, fields, water, and sewer. And just to highlight for everybody's information, basically Fleet Services is in the pre-planning mode now for winter maintenance equipment. We're up to date on our inventory. I guess we're stocking up Director Antle on the parts that will be needed for our equipment, which is always important to keep the fleet serviced and keep the fleet running during snow clearing operations. 2 new loaders will be delivered the week of the 19th. I guess that's this week now coming. So basically, I believe those two new loaders are coming out of next year's budget. It's a pre-buy. That's the 2 we approved this summer, based on the service review. Or is there 2 more coming that we originally budgeted for?
These would be the loaders that we discussed. We did have some timing issues this year related to financing for Summit Center, which we've been able to sort of defer until next season. So with some of the savings that we've been able to achieve out of some of those timing issues, we were able to purchase the loaders out of this year's budget. So I think what we had said in our meetings previously was that if we needed to commit next year's, we would, but if not, we would manage to fund them out of savings. So it looks like we're going to be able to do that.
Good. Thank you very much. And the final thing I note here, there's 3 new snow blowers which are being funded from the current year's budget. They're being delivered the first week of November. So Your Worship and Council, we are ready or getting ready, and we'll be ready, and hopefully the snow will hang off, but we will be ready for winter.
Hopefully till January or February. Director Antle.
If I could add, under one of the projects, it's a new project we have identified there, Municipal Avenue Phase 1 has been awarded and work has started, and we expect to have that complete by the month of December.
Oh, perfect. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Moving on, planning and development. Councillor Walsh.
Okay, thank you very much, Your Worship. You sound like you have a
I'm
heavy
suffering.
cold there.
I'm suffering,
Hopefully
yeah.
you'll be feeling better in the next few days, but you
Let
don't
us hope
sound
so.
well today.
Let us hope so.
Yeah. The first item, Your Worship, is an application from Window Shop who bought the property at 13 Parsons Avenue. These are fairly large lots, as Council is fairly familiar with. What they're asking to do there is subdivide the property, use the existing foundation of the building, and use the subdivision to build a second dwelling on that same property. It will be slightly smaller than the existing dwelling there. In order to do that, they needed a variance of 2.1% of the overall lot size for the second smaller dwelling. So we did go through the same process. We don't normally go through public consultation process on variance requests, as Council is well aware. But we did notify 137 adjacent property owners. We did get 2 replies back, and both of them had some concerns about the development. This does meet our development requirements, and building requirements will be addressed later. There are some conditions that apply to this, and these are outlined. It has been referred to our staff and discussed and supported. The application is supported. The new property will be designated as 13A Parsons Avenue, Your Worship. We reviewed this in committee and discussed the intent of the development application and the subdivision and the variance, and we had no issues with it. So on the basis of that, the committee supported the recommendation of the department, and we're bringing it forward for approval this evening, and I so move.
It is moved, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Question or comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded, motion carries.
Second request, Your Worship, is from Sobeys. This pertains to the development that's actually, most of the development is not in the city of Mount Pearl. It's on the corner in the city of St. John's. But there is a small easement and a piece of a property that abuts the city of St. John's that is in Mount Pearl. And so this is development of a needs store and gas bar on the, you're familiar with the corner opposite the Orange store or across the street from Admiralty Wood. This is just a general extension of the application that was already approved, or the development permit that was approved some time ago. For various reasons, they were not able to proceed. The two reasons cited were basically a delay in approval in the application process, and that would be from the City of St. John's, because it's on their property that the property would be developed for the most part. And the second piece related to the proposed development of the Team Gushue Highway and some of the grade changes, et cetera, that were related to that. We, as a committee and our department in planning, have no issues with it. It's generally just considered a fairly routine extension to an existing application, and so we're recommending that we approve that, and I so move.
Moved, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Question or comments? All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. In 2013, we as a council had asked the city to do a survey of properties that seemed to be encroaching on the front yard, particularly for display area purposes. One such property that was picked up at the time was 16 Alston Street, which is in the Kenmount Business Park, and is a property owned and operated by Blue Water Marine and Equipment. They sell boats, trailers, and other recreational equipment. They had no issue with our inquiring about the property and the display area. In fact, they wanted to comply, and they did submit an application, which we're now dealing with and had reviewed in the planning department, to have basically a show area or display court on the front of the property. They have plenty of land to do that, and to do that within our regulations. They would have a nice display area there, plenty of setbacks, meets all of the approval and regulations applying to that. And we did again review this request in committee, and we support the recommendation for approval, and we bring it forward for council's approval this evening, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. Questions or comments?
Just a question.
Councillor Stoyles.
Just wondering if these things are just going to be there for the summertime, or they're going to be there winter time as well. I'm just wondering if we get a lot of snow on that, if they would be there all winter long.
That's a great question. I guess it would be up to the Blue Water Marine as to whether or not they want to have things there in the winter. But one of the conditions that I read in preparing for the meeting today was that that we would not be held liable for any damage that would be done to a property with normal snow clearing operations. So I rather doubt that have a substantial amount of equipment or any equipment on display during the winter months. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, and of course with the large mounds of snow, it wouldn't be much of a display area. But I think primarily for the boating season, in the spring, during the summer, and during the fall. But they have the right to have it there as long as they meet the requirements. But we do have, I think we do have the rider to make us not liable for any damage. Did you want to make a comment, Your
Mr.
Worship?
Yafchek, then Councillor Ledwell.
Worship, just to clarify, in the application, and Councillor Walsh is correct, there's no real stipulation that they don't have to that they have to remove it during the winter months. But in their application, they indicated this is a seasonal display court, and in wintertime they will move it for the very reasons that Councillor Walsh has mentioned. Snow clearing, and it's the wrong time of season to be displaying boats. Yep.
Yeah.
And one of the conditions listed, in fact, it's the last one, is not impede snow clearing operations.
And that the city is not liable if equipment is
Yeah.
damaged
So,
during routine maintenance operations.
yeah. Okay. We call the
we need
question,
them
or
motion.
no, Councillor Ledwell first, and then...
sorry.
No, I just actually, Director Yevchek, Your Worship, clarified as I was going to clarify. In fact, it's written right in the report at the top of the page there above, where it says Planning and Development Department recommendation. It says that he indicated the display of boats and trailers will only occur from May until October. So it is very much a seasonal operation.
Okay, thank you very much. Deputy Mayor?
No,
No.
we need to call the question.
Oh, I thought you moved, I thought you moved the
called
motion.
question, but we
Sorry.
haven't voted on it yet.
That's
Your
right,
Worship.
that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And you want to speak to it, or?
No, I don't need to
You
speak any
moved the
further.
motion,
Just
correct?
no, we haven't voted on it. I'm making a motion for approval.
seconded it.
Seconded, but we now
So now,
need
if
to
he
vote
speaks
on it.
again, rules of order is, if Councillor Walsh speaks again, debate closes. I saw you wanting to speak, so that's why
No.
I wasn't sure which one of you had moved it.
Oh no, he was handling the other
was
items.
doing
in
the
You're
other
Sorry.
good, okay.
So if
we'll-
we could just,
we'll call
I
the
made the
question on-
motion. It's been seconded. If we could just put the question to council.
Oh, yeah, I'm not well. We'll call the question. All those,
And you got cold.
and I got a cold. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
Thank you, Worship. Now, my colleague, and that's why you
Deputy
stand there.
Mayor
He's gonna
Locke,
handle the rest.
I stood up. I had forgotten as well that we.
You moved quickly.
Sorry, Your Worship. Sorry about that.
Quite all right.
The next item for us, Your Worship,
It's miserable.
has to do with an application from New Lab Engineering Limited, and this is on behalf of the Newfoundland Labrador English School District, and this is in relationship to the placement of a portable classroom and a little corridor at Newtown Elementary on 25 Jackman Drive. The property is, the zoning allows for this. There's no problem with where it is zoned. In terms of our development regulations, there's no regional plan amendment required. There's no municipal plan amendment required. There's no Mount Pearl development regulations amendment required. So it meets all conditions here. Our city inspector inspection services have no objection to this portable classroom, provided the structures meet the standard municipal commercial construction policies. So the department is recommending that we issue a development permit subject to the conditions outlined here, that they meet the development meets Mount Pearl development and building regulations, that the classroom and corridor comply with the National Building Code, that grading will be such that stormwater is managed properly and does not pool against the building and structure, and that the site be restored to meet the city's sloping and landscaping requirements. The committee is in support of this recommendation, and I so move.
Moved, seconded by Councillor Walsh. Again, question or comment? All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried. Huh?
When you ask, nobody has any.
That's
Nobody has
right.
any.
When I don't ask, they're there.
We're trying to fool you up, sir. You're trying to fool you up here. The next
Easy
item,
to
Your
do.
Worship, are the development permit list, or the development permit list, and we have one here for October 5th to the 16th, and this has to do with Active Health Chiropractic Clinic, and I move with we accept the development permit list as presented.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
Our residential building construction permits for October 5th to the 16th of 2015, they total $603,750, and I move that the amount be accepted as presented.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? Contrary-minded, motion
Commercial
carried.
construction during the same time period, Your Worship, came in at $3.752 million. Let's go again, $3,752,100. There was too many numbers to throw into decimals. And again, I move that the amount be accepted as presented.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
And the last item for us, Your Worship, has to do with the piece of correspondence that I think all of council has on their desk here right now.
Yes.
And this has to do with the decision of the Eastern Newfoundland Regional Appeal Board. And this appeal arose from the decision that the city made in May of 2014, May 9th to be precise, at which time we gave conditional approval to Carwood Construction Limited to consolidate the property in the efforts to build a couple of apartment buildings for seniors living, affordable seniors housing, as well as some other units there for seniors living. And this was to take place, is planned to take place on 33 to 39 Municipal Avenue. Carwood Construction was notified of council decision on May the 9th of 2014. A group of residents appealed this decision by council. Went to the Eastern Newfoundland Regional Appeal Board. They rendered the decision that was subsequently appealed to the Supreme Court of Newfoundland and Labrador. Justice Robert P. Stack heard the appeal, and he referred the matter back to the Eastern Board on the issues of reasonable apprehension of bias against a couple of our council members here. And he gave the Eastern Board two options. One, the board could have reconsidered the matter on the existing record and could have provided a supplementary decision giving its reasons, or they could have reconvened the hearing and heard supplemental submissions by the parties involved. The appeal board opted to provide a supplementary decision based upon the hearing that was held in July, on July 21st of 2014. The conclusion of the board, based on this finding, the board determined that the City of Mount Pearl indeed had the authority to conditionally approve an application to go ahead with the development of 2 apartment buildings at 33 to 39 Municipal Avenue. It also determined that the city conditionally approved the subject application in accordance with its municipal plan and its development regulations. And with respect to the issues of reasonable apprehension of bias on the part of Councillor Walsh and on the part of Councillor Aker, the board decided and ruled that there was no reasonable apprehension of bias on the part of either one of these councillors. So that was the ultimate ruling of the board. It's a good news on our part. I'm not surprised by the outcome or the final report, but I think now anybody who wishes to appeal this, I think, can do so from 10 days from the date of which this was issued, which I think was October the 16th. So there is an opportunity if they want to further appeal it. But again, this was raised publicly. The appeal was raised publicly. So our planning committee, we decided that we just wanted to address this publicly and put it out there.
Well, that is indeed good news, and hopefully it clears the way once and for all for the continuing development of our affordable housing project for Municipal Avenue, and about time too. I'm delighted with the determination and the result, because for all of us involved in any level of political life, a charge of conflict of interest or bias is a very difficult one to handle. So to both Councillor Walsh and Councillor Aker, that you have refrained from public outcry, have not done anything at all to impinge or jeopardize or in any way say anything to lead to an over-anxious debate about this issue, is appreciated by me as the mayor of the city. And I joined with the deputy mayor. I was very confident that no one on this council would ever deliberately take an action that displayed a personal or professional bias, or would engage in a conflict of interest, of a pecuniary nature, to enhance or enrich themselves to the disadvantage of the citizens of our city. Mm-hmm. This merely reconfirms the position that we all hold, and I'm appreciative of it on that level. But I'm also delighted that I do believe now the field is clear, and we can go ahead with the development.
Well, there's a lot of people. There's probably about over 100 people on the wait list for units in these apartment buildings. It's a real need.
Yeah, I understand.
And that's why
92 on the waiting
list
for 26 apartments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and it certainly will grow.
Yeah.
So again, it is good news, and it certainly is. Council made the decision to try to meet a need that exists in our city here. So, Your Worship, our director Yevchek, I apologize for this. There's another item that we wish to bring forth, and it has to do with Prospect Development Limited and the signing of the Moffat Road Phase 4 subdivision agreement. The city is now in receipt of the Moffat Road Phase 4 subdivision agreement signed by Prospect Development Limited. Moffat Road Phase 4 consists of 50 single-family lots without subsidiary apartments. The signing of this subdivision was condition 20 of the development permit. Conditions of the subdivision agreement are council's standard conditions. A copy of the agreement is available in the office of the Director of Planning and Development, and our department is recommending approval be granted for you, Your Worship, and our Chief Administrative Officer, Ms. Peach, to execute the Moffat Road Phase 4 subdivision development agreement on behalf of the city, and I so move.
It is moved, seconded. Question, comment? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried.
And that is it for our committee, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes committee reports. We are on new business, so Deputy Mayor, you may as well stay on your feet if you have any. New business.
Business. Well, first thing, I think I should extend congratulations to our new Member of Parliament, Seamus O'Regan. I know he put a lot of work in, going door to door, get the message out. So it was good news. The red wave swept right across. I'm sure we've all heard it and watched it. But I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank Ryan Cleary, our outgoing Member of Parliament. You know, he was a good constituent representative. He was on the ground. He attended many of our events. He was certainly accessible. So my hat goes off to him because I think he did a very good job representing the residents of St. John South Mount Pearl. And I look forward to working with Mr. O'Regan now as we move forward. And that is it for me, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Stoyles.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too would like to congratulate our new MP, Seamus, and also, as the Deputy Mayor said, to wish Ryan Cleary best wishes in whatever he decides to take on. I'm sure he's going to find something new and exciting to take on. He certainly has done a great job for the residents of our fine city. A couple of other items, Your Worship, I wanted to mention. Assessment fees. The assessment bills have been sent out, and I know I've received a number of phone calls, as most of us have. And of course, the average cost in Mount Pearl, we haven't actually determined the level off yet. I'm thinking about 14 to 16%, but I don't think our staff have. I don't think our staff have done it.
I think the overall average is what? Do we know?
Yeah, the overall average is 14. Obviously,
It's 14%.
That's the overall average.
Yeah, that's
what that means is there's some below that and there's some above that.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be exceptions. At this point, I haven't gone in to look at in detail at certainly what the highest impacts are and the lowest impacts are, but the average is commercially.
or what style of housing?
So that's just the average bungalow in Mount Pearl would be at around 14%.
Oh, is that
Again,
right?
it depends on where it is, depends on the last assessed values and things. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of variables going to it. We have been.
I joined with Councillor Stoyles on it.
And I think, too, the thing to keep in mind, the base date for the assessment is January 1st, 2014.
14, yeah.
So what the Municipal Assessment Agency has indicated is that there's been some leveling and maybe even a little bit of declines in values since that time. So that's making it a little bit more challenging for people to understand the valuations. But if there are any questions as well on either the appeal process or a file review process, obviously they can direct them to the city or to the Municipal Assessment Agency.
Thank you. That's what I was going to say. I've spoken to Sean Martin and referred a number of residents to him. But one of the things that the assessment agent will do, they will do a review of anybody's property in the region that they deal with, except of course they don't deal with the City of St. John's. And a review can be done free of charge. However, if you want an appeal of your property, it is a $25 fee. But they are quite willing, if anybody is interested in calling them, and arrange for them to do a review of your property to see if there was a mistake. Because like they said, if there is, and it could be a mistake in somebody's assessment, they're quite willing to do a review for free of that assessment. And I just wanted to mention that. And I thought the average was about 14 to 16, so it's good to know that it was about 14%. And I guess if anybody has any problems, they can contact us. Also, Your Worship, I'd like for us to, under your signature, to send a sympathy card to Joe Barron's family. Joe passed away. Actually, she was buried this morning at Mary Queen of the World. Great volunteer. She was the founder, one of the founders of Mary Queen of the World Parish. She's, I was going to say lived and died there, and she did. When people say someone lives and dies there, she was the life of the parish, and she was laid to rest this morning from Mary Queen of the World. Tremendous volunteer in our community. Also, Your Worship, last week we had our awards, Employee Recognition Award, on October the 7th, and it was good to see so many of our staff out, and the years of service that our people have put in, from 35 years of service to people who just started. And since we built the Summer Centre, we've hired an awful lot of new employees as well, and I want to welcome all those people. And for all those people, the 6 people that retired this year, and for the people who are still working, tirelessly on our behalf, 20 and 30 and 35 years of service. We thank them and we look forward to continue working with them. And it's great to see, I know Colleen Butler put a lot of work into this, and other staff members. And I wanted to say Wanda was recognised there for all her over and above work as one of the awards. Wanda Reese, and she works at the depot, and she has always, she's been with the city now 26, 27 years, and she's a great staff person. Sometimes we forget all the hard work our staff do because you're passing by and you're in a mad rush, and sometimes you forget, not that you forget to stop to talk to them and tell them what a great job they're doing, but we're busy in our lives as well, and it's great to be able to say thank you to each and every one of them for everything they do for the city. And as Janice Sacre said when she retired there a while ago, she loved the city and she was a great ambassador for the city, and she continues to be a great ambassador for the city, and that's what it's all about. Thank you, Your Worship.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not last, but I do want to highlight a couple of things that Councillor Stoyles had said. So if this is going to be repeated 2 or 3 more times, I apologize for that, but it's on you, not me. The first thing, too, I do want to mention the Employee Recognition Awards, and I think the theme was fabulous. The kitchen party, the food was great. It was great to see some of our former employees and the recent retirees, as you mentioned, Councillor Stoyles. I also had the pleasure of sitting with 5 retirees at the table, and getting to know them at a different level. One of them was Leo Lane, who was actually injured on the job a number of years ago. But it was just a real pleasure to get to chat with them in an informal way, get to know them, to sort of enjoy their sense of humor, because they do have a unique sense of humor. There's no doubt about that. And it was great to be able to acknowledge the work that they and others have done in making our city as great as it is. On that same day in the afternoon, we did have an afternoon tea with the Mount Pearl Seniors Independence Group, and I really enjoyed that as well. I want to congratulate the work that they continue to do. They're always trying to come up with new and innovative and different programs. They're doing that this year. I know last year, one of my friends, Wayne Evans, who plays a little bit of music occasionally together, he's now providing guitar lessons, I think on Monday mornings at the Park Place Community Center, and it's really, really well attended. They get 20 or 25 every single week, and so it's some new activities that are going on. I also want to acknowledge the election results last night. Congratulations to our new Prime Minister, Mr. Trudeau, and sounds a little familiar to old guys like me. That was a great victory last night. It was a big red wave that started early, and for once we didn't buck the trend. Well, we actually started the trend. And I do also want to thank Ryan Clary, whom I really, like all of you, only got to know in the last 3 or 4 years, really, because I knew of him before in his reporting business, but I only got to know Ryan as an MP, really. And he did a great job. He was a strong representative. Another former student of mine, Seamus O'Regan, was elected last night, and we're looking forward to working with him. I'm sure he'll be a great ambassador and a great representative of our city and of our district, and hopefully of government as well. So it was a big change in government, some surprises. Surprises are almost never new to elections. There are always some surprises. And I had some surprises both provincially and nationally as well. But congratulations to all. It was a very well-deserved win. And again, thanks to Mr. Clary for his strong representation, and good luck in the future to the Trudeau government and to Seamus O'Regan in his representation of the issues in Mount Pearl and in St. John South over the next 4 years. Thank you very much, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Tessier.
Yes. We have had it brought to our attention over the last couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, that there's people utilizing our trails for dirt bikes and some of our public areas in Mount Pearl. We recently were contacted by somebody from the Admiralty Wood area. I know that we are working with the RNC and our municipal enforcement officers on patrolling that to stop that. Fairweather as well. Fairweather Avenue. I actually encountered it myself on our own trailways one day this week, and it is unsettling when you're walking and suddenly you hear the motorized vehicle come up behind you. So we just have to remind the general public again, they absolutely cannot use motorized recreational vehicles in our pathways, our walkways, our trailways. It's dangerous, it's a nuisance, but mostly, of course, the danger factor. So that's just something that we have to keep continue driving home. I understand we can take the vehicle. We can take the vehicle. So that's a price to pay for driving in a public area. And we will take the vehicle. We don't want to do it, but we will do it. So I actually am strongly asking young people or anybody who's doing it to stop. If your child owns a dirt bike, please know where they are on it, because it's unsettling and it's dangerous. And like my colleagues, I want to congratulate Mr. O'Regan, our new MP. I look forward to working with him. I think if his campaign was any indication, he's definitely going to be here for his constituents. And of course, want to acknowledge Ryan Cleary's efforts and his commitment to St. John's South Mount Pearl. We have been in very good hands for the last 4 years. We've been in good hands for many years, but with Ryan, of course, in the last 4 years, and I expect we'll be in good hands again with Mr. O'Regan.
Thank you. Councillor Aker.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I too want to join my colleagues. I think Ryan Cleary did serve the province very well, and as Councillor Walsh said, we really got to know him the last 4 years, and if Ryan wasn't from Harbour Grace, I'd say he's from Mount Pearl. And he did a wonderful job for our city and I believe for our province, and we wish Seamus all the best. I'm sure he'll be a great ambassador and a very effective MP as well. I just want to make note that 3 weeks ago I attended the 60th anniversary service of the First Baptist Church here in Mount Pearl, Your Worship. I attended on your behalf. So not only is the city of Mount Pearl 60 years old this year, but so is the First Baptist Church, and they had a very warm service. They're a very small, tight-knit group, and the city of Mount Pearl congratulates them on celebrating that anniversary, and we wish them another 60 years. Mount Pearl is a better place because we have the First Baptist Church, and it was a really, really good event, I must say. And,
wonderful. They're
really proud of the city's 60th birthday as well. And on a final note, I want to say congratulations to Director Silver, and if there's any other staff in the city of Mount Pearl that ran the Cape to Cabot Marathon there the weekend in very good weather. Yeah, you should see the pictures on Facebook. You hardly say worked up a sweat, Your Worship, but just for that, we're going to punish him by enduring 2 months of budget promulgation and decision making.
There you go.
Congratulations, Director, and good luck.
Good luck. You'll pay the price for that. Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't want to be repetitive, certainly, but I don't want to be the only one that didn't either. So I certainly want to congratulate our brand new MP, Mr. O'Regan. Seamus put together a fantastic campaign, and if the hard work that he put in his campaign this time around is any indication as to how hard he's going to work for the citizens of St. John's South Mount Pearl, I think we're going to have a fabulous MP representing us in Ottawa. Also want to thank, of course, Ryan, Mr. Cleary, we all know, has a very soft spot in his heart for Newfoundland and Labrador. And I know that that's going to continue on, and certainly with his insistence in calling the riding Mount Pearl St. John's South, we know that he has a soft spot for Mount Pearl as well. So thank you very much to Ryan Cleary for all of his service, and certainly wish him well in the future. I just want to make a note, Your Worship. I had the very great pleasure of attending last Thursday night the year-end banquet and awards for the Pearlgate Track and Field Club. Of course, all kinds of award winners and all the athletes deserve congratulations. I don't want to go into naming too many names, but I do want to recognize Carol Ann Kellaway, who, of course, we're all very familiar with. Carol Ann was named the club's Volunteer of the Year. She's their... not at all, but not really a surprise, but certainly well-deserved. I know she sleeps and breathes that particular organization, and certainly, she's well-deserving that award. I also want to pass on a message from the club in that they're very thrilled with their relationship with the city and all the work that we have done in terms of bringing their facility, I guess, up to date and doing some improvements at the track, the new clock that they have in place, the new signage on the building. They're thrilled with all of that, so I just want to pass on from the Track and Field Club to our staff, a great job done. They're very, very happy with the relationship, and I guess they hope it continues.
Thank you, sir, very much. You did forget an item.
I did too.
Oh, my goodness. Deputy Mayor.
This is a fun item.
Deputy Mayor.
I meant to ask a question to everyone on
All
council.
assembled.
Yes. How many outdoor swimming pools do you know that exist in Mount Pearl?
Existed or exists
Like
now?
no, like city pools or town pools. You know, ones that are outdoors.
Oh, you mean not like a pool in
residential.
somebody's residence?
No, no.
Well, there was one. I'm aware of one.
Yes.
That's it.
Where?
It was down down that way by Steady
World
area.
Crescent. Yeah, I knew of that one.
There's the old pool, as we call it, was an outdoor pool that had a cover put on it.
Yes, I knew of that one. That's two. No.
Because I know that there's.
Right. So Mr. Antle, who's a fellow Mount Pearlian, born and bred, he emailed me that question the other day. And of course, I knew of the two that he and I had mentioned. So I said, well, I'll contact my Aunt Helen Dunn. She's been down there for 80 years. And he said, no, that would be cheating. I'm wondering if you knew. And I didn't know this. So he brought me in this lovely aerial photograph from 1951, which even predates the overpass on Topsail Road here.
He was only 10 years old then.
He was only 10 years old. And present-day Glencoe Drive, there's a big square field here, and I can show council this later on. That was from some St. John's Service Club, and adjoining that was this outdoor pool in one of the tributaries that comes into the Waterford River. It's probably 100 feet long, and Director Antle and some of our staff were in the area, and they actually took some pictures of the concrete that still exists there.
It's still there.
It's still there. And we're going to look at this because some of it looks like it may actually be tumbling. It could potentially fall into the river, which may cause some flooding damages.
But I don't think Director Angel can follow the pool unless he was swimming there.
I don't know. So anyways, I figured I would just throw that out there as for some trivia. And I also want to acknowledge Director Yevchek's attire today. He's country club elegant attire. He looks quite sharp in it. So I just wanted to highlight. Looks very nice. Thank you.
Heaven help us, why did I go back?
And your worship, before
Councillor Stoyles.
before we adjourn, I wanted to mention Daryl Brenda Butt's son. He was what the right wording for it, but he's was asked to join the AHL as a linesman. So he's a resident, grew up in Mount Pearl. Of course, we all know Brenda from the rink. He lives in the Ghouls now, but called Brenda the other morning to wish, because I heard of it, and wish her well. And they were at a press conference, so they're very excited.
I would say so. That's wonderful.
Brenda has lived and died hockey and still loves the rink as she works up there. So I wanted to congratulate and ask us to send off a letter to Daryl.
We can do that. Thank you very much.
That's it.
I look at the world. I look at the world differently sometimes. I'm pretty well everything that can be said here today has been said. I did have the pleasure on October 15th, by the way, of signing a proclamation for Credit Union Day in the city up at the Credit Union office. That's an organization that's growing in leaps and bounds. I was talking to the manager. They're doing really, really well, and there's a fair amount of investment and a huge customer base now here in Mount Pearl and from the surrounding area as well. So it was nice to be able to do that. Yes, we join with all of council in passing on, and we will be sending the appropriate correspondence, I'm sure, to both Mr. Ryan Cleary and to Seamus O'Regan, thanking one for his service to our community and his promotion of Mount Pearl, and the other for the upcoming 4 years and the fact that we look forward to working with him. Except in the letter, I want to remind him of something his boss said. His boss said up at the high school, I think it was Mount Pearl Intermediate, wasn't it, Lucy? That's where Mount Pearl Intermediate or Senior High now. Sunday afternoon, big rally. Yours truly was there. I think you were as well.
I was on stage.
You were on the stage with him. And here's what Justin Trudeau said. He said that one of the things that he had learned from Seamus was that there was going to be desperate need for funding to deal with the wastewater issues in this region, and he committed that there would be a new federal funding program to address wastewater needs, and that is of critical importance to Newfoundland and Labrador, and in particular, the city of St. John's, the city of Mount Pearl, the town of Paradise, Conception Bay South, and God knows who else that we're going to put on that pipeline. So it's critically important. He also said something else, though this one he didn't say that night when he was at the school in Mount Pearl. But he's got it in writing that there is going to be a new federal infrastructure fund for municipal government. And I think, given that he says it's $60 billion over the next 10 years, I don't know about you, I want a cut of $6 billion a year for us. So I think we're going to have to ask for a meeting with our new MP fairly soon, and I think these matters and a couple of others are the things that we should quickly focus on. Because 2020 or 2021, when we have to meet these wastewater regulations coming soon, and of course the issue of infrastructure continues to plague us all, and we want to be one of the players in that game. So I pass on congratulations to them, and now they've got to go to work. And to everything that everybody else had to say, nothing to add other than this. The proclamation that was signed that day, Councillor Walsh, in reference to the seniors thing, was in recognition of Caregivers Out of Isolation Day. Mount Pearl Seniors was one of the organizations that actually founded an original club, if you will, a support group among caregivers in isolation. And you would be amazed, and maybe you wouldn't, because all of us know someone who is in a situation where they're providing literally 24-hour-a-day care for a loved one, right? And so I'm saying, you'd be surprised how many people find themselves in that circumstance, but maybe not, because we all could name someone. So it was a tremendous thing to do. The province was there to sign the proclamation that day, and I thought it was marvelous, and continues to be marvelous, that our Seniors Club provides that outlet for these groups on an ongoing basis, by the way, and that once a year they have this big annual lunch. I think it's absolutely marvelous. Everything else, guys, you have all said it. So on that note, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Did I just say notion or motion? I have a notion. That I'll entertain a motion. Moved by Councillor Ledwell. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.